friend has been using pictures of me to catfish her long-distance boyfriend of 5 years. My best friend Maggie and I are roommates, and we moved in together 2 years ago. About 5 years ago, Maggie spent spring break a couple states away and matched with a guy on Tinder. When she came back to campus, she immediately told me all about him. She bragged about how amazing he was and how they'd only gone out to dinner once, but they were already talking 24/7. I got super excited for her since her dating life had been basically non-existent for ages. I asked to see a picture of him, and that was the only time I ever saw what he looked like. Over the past 5 years, he's been her entire world. She talks about him constantly, always has her nose buried in her phone, and gets ridiculously clingy when he takes too long to text back. There hasn't been a single day where I haven't heard about this guy. Since he sends presents and flowers on Valentine's Day, I figured they were practically dating. So I asked her why they never met up again, and she said they were both too busy and broke to make the trip. I suggested letting him stay with us, but she always refused. I didn't bring it up often because at the end of the day, it wasn't my business. That was until yesterday. Maggie had picked up a shift at work, so I was home alone all day. I was planning to just relax when I heard a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened it, there was a guy standing there who I'd never seen before. He gasped and looked incredibly happy. He said hi, and I said hi back, but I was obviously very confused. He looked jittery and nervous at first. Then, out of nowhere, he barged in and scooped me up into a huge hug. I just froze, having no idea how to react. He told me, "I thought you were working? I was hoping your roommate would be here so I could surprise you when you got back." I still had no clue who this guy was, so I begged to be put down. I backed away from him and told him I didn't know who he was. He laughed and said, "Come on, Maggie, it's me." I quickly let him know I wasn't Maggie, and I didn't understand why he would think that since we looked nothing alike. It took a minute for both our brains to process what was happening. He asked me, "If you're not Maggie, who are you?" "I'm Summer, Maggie's roommate," I replied. Then something clicked, and I asked if he was Adam. He gave me a very slow yes, like he was confused out of his mind as well. But then something in him snapped, and he yelled out, "Holy fuck!" He proceeded to tell me that for the past 5 years, he thought he'd been talking to me. Every single picture he'd ever seen of Maggie had actually been pictures of me. I was completely dumbfounded, and we didn't know what to say to each other at first. So he pulled out his phone and showed me proof. He had tons of pictures of me saved on his phone. He then went to their messages and showed me that she'd been sending them to him. I felt, and still feel, completely sick to my stomach. I got out my phone and showed him real pictures of Maggie. I suggested maybe they could just talk when she got off work. He was really pissed at this point. I said maybe we should call her first and let her know he was here. So I did that, and she started flipping out, saying she wasn't coming home, telling him to leave, and that she wouldn't talk to him. He called her and started yelling at her over the phone. After everyone calmed down slightly, she eventually came home. He was hurt and accusing, she was crying, and I was sitting there awkwardly watching this whole thing go down. She told him that she was still the same person he'd had feelings for, and he screamed at her, "No, I thought I was in love with your roommate." That completely made her break down. So I told him maybe he should leave for the night and everyone should have their own space. He agreed, and after he left, she went completely psychotic on me and started throwing everything around the living room. She told me she hated me. I started crying. It was an absolute mess. I left to stay with a friend and haven't been back, so I don't know what's happened since. I feel like I have no idea who the person I'm living with is, and I feel weirdly violated. Do I move out? Do I try to call her? She hasn't even texted me. I ended up having a phone call with Adam, mostly because I wanted to know about the pictures she'd sent. Turns out she'd sent pics of me in my underwear, plus naked pictures that weren't actually of me or her. We're assuming she got those from Google. He feels really bad and is actually having a hard time processing all of this. I assured him I don't blame him at all for the underwear pics or anything like that. He told me that they'd actually FaceTimed, but she would never show her face, only the top of her head and hair, which is dyed a similar color to mine. Never thought anything of this before, but now I think it might be really weird. Her excuse was that she felt like she looked bad on video, was self-conscious, didn't have makeup on, etc. He said he didn't think it was weird at the time. He also told me he'd tried tons of times to arrange visits to meet, and she came up with excuses every single time. He said he'd been mostly content to talk through text and phone calls up until this point. He's going to try reaching out to her one more time to talk about everything, but he's moving on. As for me, I'm not sure I can break my lease yet, but I'm going ahead and moving out to stay with a friend until it's over. We briefly talked when I went back to the apartment, and she sort of half apologized, but is still pretty hostile and defensive, so I'm giving her space. I feel bad for her, but I don't think our friendship is going to survive this whole thing. Full story on channel where OP makes a decision is on my channel and linked below.